Hi guys.
Hello.
Hello everyone. So this is the facial expressions and portraying emotions in cartoon characters. Welcome to the panel. This is my first time ever hosting a panel, so let's see how it goes. Welcome. Come on in. Feel free to take a seat anywhere. We are just about to get started here. So jump into it. Let me go ahead and
come on in.
It's dark. I've been attacked by a ball.
You won't be back.
I gotta
Okay, so
back up. No, come on in. You're good. We got more seats towards the front.
Plenty of seats over here.
Plenty of seats on this side of the room over here. If you guys want to get on through. If you guys would like to.
Now, Andy, why would you sit right in front of the short?
Because I'm breaking the magic. Because I am a superior.
You sit in the back. It's respectful.
But I
You
am.
want to paint a good image for furry, don't you?
Yeah, all right. You're good. You're good.
I'm trash, so I don't care.
You're a dumpster.
Any dumpster fire? Sure. That's my whole
Turn it off.
low key.
So, yeah, welcome everyone. This looks like a full room. Awesome. So my name is Jonathan Honigvar. I am the author of Peter and Company and Peter and Whitney. It's comics I've been doing online for about 13 years now. It's been a long time. If you guys aren't familiar with it, this is basically what those comics are. They're obviously furry comics, but they center around the same group of characters across both comics. Peter and Company is them as kids. Peter and Whitney is them grown up in college. And so it's like two like sister comics that I'm doing at the same time. So I am a SCAD graduate. I went to the Savannah College of Art and Design down in Savannah, Georgia. I have a degree in sequential art, comics essentially. And I was there for 8 years, worked on my master's, and then ran out of funding and had to drop just before doing my master's degree, getting my paperwork for that. So almost finished it, but got all the training for it.
I'll be able to go back and finish it.
I hope so, yeah. If I can make it back before my credits expire. But if not, it's no big deal. I wanted to be a professor, actually. There's a reason why I was going for my master's. And ultimately decided to just kind of focus on drawing comics and getting into other fields. But yeah, Peter and Company and Peter and Whitney are both also published on the Catbox. If you're familiar with that group of comics online, they are part of that network. And I'm, just as a forewarning, I'm used to drawing traditionally, with pencil and ink. Not too used to doing pure digital, so my sketches here are going to be really kind of loose and quick, just because I'm going to be drawing directly into Photoshop here. So this is Peter and Whitney here, them in college. the Roger Rabbit. Yeah, I try to fit as many Roger Rabbit references and parodies in my work as I can, because it's a long running gag. Okay, so this is going to be just a quick crash course in the construction of the face and basics of expression. I'm not going to be showing you how to draw faces, like the different elements, like the mouth and the eyes and stuff like that. So this is not a tutorial on the actual construction of it. This is just how to take the elements of the face together in order to better portray emotion in whatever style that you decide to draw it in. So this is hopefully going to be a universal tutorial for whatever you guys want to do with it. Like I said, I'm going to be drawing really quickly, and I encourage the use of the sketchbook to follow along if you have one. If not, then just take mental notes. And this is hopefully going to fill the whole hour. I guess we'll see see how long this runs. As I said, this is my first time hosting a panel, so this is kind of a dry run here. This will be fun. So jumping straight into it. First point is that there are main facial points on human characters, and to start off with, let me draw a quick loose face here. And now most of my human characters typically end up looking like Homer Fudds, and this guy's going to look very Homer Fuddish, just to kind of get the point across.
Unless you were here before we started.
Yeah, unless you were here before we started, because then I drew Waluigi. that was fun. As I said, I'm not used to digital. Okay, so that's well enough. Okay. All right, so essentially you've got main points and subpoints to your facial features. There are 3 main points that can be manipulated one at a time in order to shift the emotion completely. Now that includes the eyes, which also include eyelids. So if you go like this, you can have eyelids manipulating them shape and direction and other elements like that. There's the brow line for the eyebrows, which you can go in and change just one element, and it changes the expression completely just by changing that one. Or there's the third element is the mouth, which can immediately change the expression just by changing that one element. Any of these 3 elements, eyes, eyebrows, or mouth, can completely shift the direction. They are the most powerful elements of the face. And if you remove any of these elements and don't include them, the expression becomes unreadable. So if you get rid of the eyebrows, or the eyes, or the mouth, you basically lose the readability of the expression. So they are basically the anchor points. Now there are subpoints which can be used to kind of emphasize the emotion that you're trying to portray, and those include the cheek lines, which are lower lines, so like cheek lines along underneath the eyes and around the side. There's the pupils of the eyes themselves can be modified to either be smaller, like he's terrified, or larger.
I seen some shit.
Like you don't know what I've seen. Or even doing one big and one small for like, completely, So there's, there's a variety for that. Then the nose and nostrils can also be modified. You can shift the direction subtly to push whatever emotion it is. So one raised up like this, or like the nostrils flaring, or even have the nose crunched up if they want to be like moving their nose around. But those are all optional. These are used to emphasize an emotion. So you can draw a face without any of these sub-options in place, and it'll still be readable as whatever emotion you're trying to do. So they are kind of like on top of the base layer. As proof of this concept, if anybody is familiar with Peter and Company, there are characters in my comic that are called the Worms, and they're basically little gremlins that live within the series, and they are a walking demonstration of this element because they are just eyebrows, eyes, and a mouth. And that's literally it. They're just kind of goofy. So they have no other facial features at all, just those 3 elements. And so those are the only ones that I use to portray any kind of emotion that I need to show with them. So yeah, it's those are your main points, and they will be your biggest tools in portraying emotion. Now, we've got the human character that we just went over with 3 main points. Moving on to animal characters, this is basically why animal characters are more appealing for cartoons and comics, because they have additional points. So you've got the same base points. You've got the eyes, you've got the eyebrows, the brow line, and you've got a mouth. But then, in addition to that, you also have, so I'm going to use Peter as he's a cat, so I'm going to use him as the example here. You also have ears. This is an element that is not available to human characters, but is inherently a part of the body language of animals. And this applies to any species that uses this. So the advantage to choosing your species for your character also gives you additional options available for new main points of emotion. For a cat, you've got the ears, you have the fur. These can be manipulated just as well as the eyes and mouth and the eyebrows to show emotion. If you put them down instead of up, they can steer the emotion in a different direction. And these are options that I've seen quite a few furry artists that have these characters and then they don't take advantage of these additional options. They still treat them like human characters and only move the 3 main elements. You've got other elements available for you, so you should take advantage of them. So we've got, for a cat, you've got the eyes, you have the ears and fur. If you've got like an elephant, you've got the trunk is also an additional point of, like a main point of reference. For longer snout characters, I mean, you can add more definition to the mouth, you can add teeth. There's any number of possibilities available, and this is honestly, it's the reason why cartoons have used animal designs from the very beginning of the industry, is because they're inherently more expressive. You've got so many more other options available for you. And like, going through SCAD, like as a furry artist, there was a furry community in Savannah, but there was also a community within the sequential department that was sort of like, I wouldn't call them anti-furry, but they didn't understand why you would draw animal characters. And I had to deal with the question so many times during reviews where people would ask, why not just make them human? Why do they have to be animals? Why not make them human characters? If it's like, if they're living in a human world, why are they animals? And one of the best reasons is because they're just more expressive. They're easier to push the boundaries. Yeah.
Going with the theme of the con this year being fantasy within Japanese forest, or the Sakura forest, wouldn't that then give you the option to be able to apply ears to a human character? Because in the Asian world, when say animal folk took on a human appearance, or when they took on a more human appearance, they didn't have animal features aside from their ears and tail.
That is very true. Yeah, I mean that could. Yeah, you could. Yeah, it's very anime. Yeah. Yeah, that goes into the realm of like mythology and things like that. Like so there have been animal, human type characters throughout centuries worth of mythology and things like that. Like that is absolutely a good point. Like there's I don't know. I feel like it's something that a lot of people just kind of don't consider, that animal characters are just an easier way to express emotions, and I feel like that's something that they should focus more on. So moving on from this stuff to slightly more boring stuff. Well, not boring, but more technical stuff. We have this right here. This is the emotional grid, and this is basically a color wheel of emotions. You've got 3 extremes: happy, angry, and sad. So let me zoom in here real quick to draw these from here.
This is not trigonometry.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm going to try to keep this simple. So you got I'm going to draw extreme versions of these emotions here. So like the happy one here, and go like. With the
Squee.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly. So you have the extremely happy face over here.
Scooby when he sees food.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Or when he sees boobies.
Nah, if you see boobs, I'll draw boobs on his eyes. So it's like the super happy face there. And then you have sad. Which the brow line can define the where is this here? The upper edge of the eye line to show where the eyebrows would be overlapping the eyes, and to give them sort of like a more solid expression like this. And usually if they're like sad, drawing the pupils larger kind of pushes like the puppy dog eyes, like the Puss in Boots face with the huge eyes. That's a good way to portray a sad emotion like this. And like, And again, with the cat, you can draw the ears down.
Can I ask food, please?
Yeah. Can I have another burger, please? Cheeseburger. So there's sad, and then you got angry. Eyebrows
man.
fully forward.
It looks like Santa.
Baker.
And this one, if they're angry, you draw like it looks like they have fangs.
Oh, so Sonic the Werehog.
I shouldn't have said that.
You poisoned my mind, son.
It's been poisoned long before you knew me.
True.
Ooh, if you need me, I'll be in the angry dome.
I'll be in the angry tone. Oh, good news, everyone. Alright, so we got angry, sad, and happy, for the extreme emotions here. So you can see that going into this extreme, you have the eyes up, the teeth showing. Over here you have the ears down, teeth showing. Over here you have ears down, mouth closed. Now, in between these, you have other emotions as well that take place. You've got embarrassed, confused. Well, confused is halfway between angry and happy. Embarrassed, happy and sad. And scared, angry and sad. And then smack in the middle of everything, that's kind of like a neutral zone, is just bored. So, draw these in real quick, just to give a visual. So, confused does a little bit of both there. So, it's like,
Why am I a werehog now?
what's going on? Oh no.
Sonic's face every time he hears Knuckles talk. So you got Sonic Boom.
You can actually put one ear up and one ear down to show confusion in a cat. Because usually, like if they're cautious or wary, like just watch a cat's movements, and like one ear will go to the side or slightly down if they're like hearing something or confused about something. So that's like one way to do that.
I notice you don't use a lot of straight lines in your drawings. Is there a reason for that? Like you use a lot of like curves and lots of squiggly lines. Is that just to make it more organic, or?
Just to make it organic and loose.
Mhm.
Just got like a looser, sketchier look to the characters. I just like to keep, it's for, also because of the quickness of drawing and the fact that I'm not entirely used to working on a tablet. Like if this were traditional, the characters would look a lot cleaner.
Mhm.
So admittedly, this is a very sort of quick and rough version of Peter. But yeah, it would look better. I kind of figured out a good way to do a projection with a traditional pencil. Like it was very tricky to figure out, so this works. So embarrassed is again using the same upper eye line as sad, but the embarrassed eyes are going to be more like dots. And keeping with the mouth here. And usually we put like a little bit of a blush in there to show that he's really not feeling too good. Ears down. So happy, embarrassed, sad. And now scared is where you can actually use his fur as a mode of expression, because he will be wide-eyed with tiny pupils. I would usually draw his eyes coming down a little bit underneath to show that his eyes are kind of like bugging out of his head a bit.
Yes.
So you got that here, right there. And then maybe, yeah, I'll keep his mouth closed on this one like this.
It's not as awkward as someone playing like anime music video in the middle of a lecture.
Oh, my ringtone is Zelda on here. So if all of a sudden you hear Zelda going off, like I completely forgot to. Yeah. Or like the little what are the little guys that you find in and around Breath of the Wild, the little seed guys.
Oh, yeah.
They'll go off all day long.
I have a Final Fantasy fanfare for my ringtone. And it's like,
I've switched between Zelda, Chrono Trigger, and Earthbound.
Yeah.
Different songs that will play on my phone as I'm going along.
but the perfect time my phone went off was when I turned in my exam, and then my phone was like dun 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 dun. Like this is perfect.
Not a good moment for that. That would have been really good. Okay, so for scared, what I'm doing is I'm frizzing out his fur a little bit to show that his fur is all riled up that he's terrified. And I can do the same with his ears a little bit. The ear fur isn't as long as the rest of his fur, so try to keep it shorter. Unless you've got like a long-haired cat or whatever, just keep it with the species that you're drawing. But for Peter's sake, his main head fur is going to be longer than his ear fur. So the rest of him is going to be mostly frizzed out, and it's going to make him look very sort of puffed up, because when a cat gets scared, they go crazy. So that is another element, again, of main portrayal of emotion. So you've got happy, embarrassed, confused, angry, scared, and sad, and right smack in the middle of everything. I know, right? I don't know if there's. Yeah, come on in.
Sorry.
Freaking humble that there's so many people here. Oh my God. Hi. So then we got board in the middle, which is completely neutral face. I'm just going to kind of make him like blue in the middle. Without any change of expression in his ears or anything like this. So that's essentially your emotional grid here. On the extremes, you have happy, angry, and sad. All three elements, or additional elements, also working together to push the emotion as far as it can go. And in between those, you have the combination of the two extremes, which produce these mid ones. And now, obviously, this is far from every emotion you can portray in a character. So this is not a concrete list at all. Like, this is mostly just for your own reference, if it will help to kind of figure out elements of each one that you can combine to create these emotions. This could help you to kind of visualize it a bit. So this is, yeah, the board is really small, but I should show more. But yeah, that's sort of what I do. If anybody has any questions or anything like that, feel free to yes.
Wasn't there one like in between happy and sad too? Yeah.
Happy and sad, that's embarrassed. Alright. Scared, angry, sad, embarrassed, confused, happy, and smack in the middle is bored because it's a little bit of like neutral zone. So taking the board face, I can actually go in here and let's see. Take this here. So taking the board face here, and again, just to show another example to kind of trace back because people have come into the room since then. Essentially, there are main points on the face that can be manipulated to completely shift the direction of the emotion that you're trying to portray. That includes the eyes, the eyebrows, the mouth, and on animal characters, you've got ears, fur, and other elements that are species exclusive. So if you change a single one of these elements, it will change the direction of the emotion. So you can take just the eyes and make it a completely different face. or you can change just the mouth, and nothing else changes, but the emotion completely shifts. And the same thing with changing eyebrows. The eyebrow like that. Again, completely, it's nothing else changed, but it can shift the direction because those are your main focal points. The additional points, the sub-points that are used for emphasis of an emotion are the cheek lines, the pupils, the size and positioning of the pupils themselves, making them like, you know, tiny or huge, like, or the nose is as well. If you want to do like positioning of the nose in different angles and stuff, that can all change as well. Now, taking this to the absolute extreme, there is the wild take, and this is a cartoon staple going back to like Looney Tunes era, like the early days of animation, where the face basically becomes a piece of clay, and you can exaggerate and push as far as you can go, and actually change the structure of the face non-permanently. So it's a temporary exaggeration into sizes and scales that, oh, sorry, wrong tool. All right, there we go. Into sizes that ordinarily would, you know, for a non-cartoon character, it would seriously hurt them. But in the case of a cartoon character, you can get away with it, because like Roger Rabbit style, they're basically made of rubber. So going into the initial part of it, you have the nose here, and say like a screaming one. Put that there, and then the mouth can go like, like stretching out and exaggerating. And if you're doing, just as an example here, I'm going to use the mouth. I'm going to focus on the mouth as the exaggerated point. So just kind of go like this. Draw the rest of the face here real quick. Keep the ears down, I think, because that makes it look like he's scared. So now you can take this, and this is your excuse to go more detailed. Because if you're doing a wild take, you can get away with showing a lot more detail than you normally would in a normal face. The less detail you show, the more kind of streamlined and average it is. But if you're showing in a wild take, you would want to show more detail, say, showing teeth, like actual teeth. Like this. And then you could extend the tongue out even further. Now he looks like he's disgusted. He's like, oh my god, what is that? Yeah. Hairball! That little like...
Oh, this is going places.
The orb of confusion.
Or we can change it up even more. Change it up even more here. I can go like this and take the shape of the mouth here. Bless you. And instead make it a smile.
Boobs.
I was gonna want pizza, but boobs works too. I mean, you know.
But French fries though.
And if you remove the teeth completely, then it looks kind of like
Stay.
it's a cleaner, yeah. Usually I'll show teeth in an expression if it's something along the lines of like anger or fear. If it's just like a cartoony hunger, or I guess like a lust, that it would be just no teeth shown, just the tongue. It's going. And then again, this is more like a scared expression because his ears are down. He put his ears up. Now it's more positive. If the crazy eyes going on like that. Or go like this and just make the eyes a solid mass.
It's a style that's lost on today.
Yep. Big guy's just. Oh, come on.
Oh man, he's real upset.
Jeez. I'm sorry, Peter. I didn't mean to drive this way.
No, this is your attention all along.
This is good. Okay, so we got the little shivering of the pupils in there. Now he's whoa. What the hell is he looking at? Or even like draw like his neck coming out this way, so he's like, oh.
Jesus, what have you done?
No. It's kind of just drawing itself at this point.
It's like a drug email.
Pin just reminds me of itself.
One hand out like this, like he's like. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Just take away the pupils, now you got zombie.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. You can do zombie Pete. All right. Hold on a second. Like this. His hands straight down like that. I don't know what that's doing, but okay. So yeah, that's fun. Good golly. All right, let's try another one. Let's see.
Perhaps try a girl character?
Hmm?
Maybe you should try a girl character?
A girl character? Want me to do a girl?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure. All right, let's do. Try drawing. Let's do it. How about that? This and one second. Let me grab the lighter tone for this real quick. Okay, so let's try. So this is my character Whitney that I draw fairly frequently. Some of you may be familiar with her because I do a cosplay pinup series throughout the year. It started off as like a Halloween challenge, like a costume sketch a day kind of thing, and blew up into an actual annual series that I do now. And it's just her in like pinup style stuff, dressed as other characters from like comics and stuff like that. So you may recognize her from that, or just from the comics themselves if you guys have ever read it. But I'll draw her real quick. Her hair kind of goes like this. On the sides like that. One here up there. Her hair goes very wavy, so I'm not going to even try to put all the details in because I would be here all day. But yeah, that's the basic structure for her. Now changing her expression around, let's see what should we do? Make her like just bored, like angry like that. I have done extreme wild take emotions with her before. So this is not going to be the first time I've drawn her doing some crazy things. But let's see, what should I do?
Disappointed.
Disappointed? Oh man.
Oh, that was an easy one.
Yeah, disappointed and kind of like I don't know. Maybe like a little like lip curl there. Yeah, she's looking unhappy. She is not happy with him. Really?
What Pete did this time?
Pete, you think? No, knowing him, it was probably something to do with like video games or boobs or something. Seems to be his usual. Alright. So you can also take it and make her super excited by pushing her eyes a little bit more. Make her eyes bigger and more rounded. And more cross-eyed as well is another way to show sort of surprise. Push the eyes closer together so that they're a little bit more like cross-eyed like that, and now she looks surprised but hasn't quite grasped what it is. How about She's yelling at him.
You're supposed to pick me up an hour.
Oh God! I'm so sorry. Or actually, that's not good. Let's do a happy grin. Push the cheeks up to make it even happier here. Bring the line up. Oh, jeez. Now she's mischievous, so this is not going well.
Well, that's a good one.
This is a good one.
That is a very big grin.
Yes.
You'll never believe what I just did.
This is when you don't trust Whitney. This is she's up to something with this. Sure, go on in first. I'm not doing anything. There's absolutely nothing to worry about. There's also the bully character here. Let's try bringing her up. This is Chelsea, who is one of the oldest characters, because the Cast of Peter Company are characters I've been drawing now for 20 years. I've been drawing a good long while. I first came up with Peter, Chelsea, Seth, Iggy, and a number of others back in high school. I graduated in '99, so I've been drawing them for a long time. And so I've gotten kind of used to just how their characters are structured and built. And when you draw characters for that long of a time, they kind of stick with you. So it's you get like sort of knowing them by heart how they're structured. Like Chelsea has like rounder ears like this. And I'm drawing her happy, but she's typically not a very happy character.
Her plots just went through perfectly.
Well, yeah, that's true, yeah. Her hair kind of comes up like this with a little tie in the back and then like a ponytail in the back like this. Yeah, very sort of loosely it's Chelsea here. But her character is usually not very happy, so let's take that out and make her, well, recently she did a tragic, like a very tragic storyline, so if you draw her as she was then, it was like, and we can push the emotion in your face to fit more along the lines of what happened in this story. She lost a very important friend recently. So pushing the shape of her eyes, bringing them upwards so that it looks more traditional like this. And bringing the cheeks up to really show that she's also, I don't know if you guys are noticing if I'm doing it or not, but like typically when I'm drawing in motion like this, I'll start to make the face myself. I was like, this is what I used to do for practice. I used to have a mirror on my desk, and I would actually make the face into the mirror to kind of practice with it because it helps to know like how the muscles move. Be able to draw them a little bit better. So like, so she's like that, and you can actually draw like a little bit of tears in there. So she's not having a good time. Aside from the fact that her neck is now like twice the length it should be. Maybe that's what she's crying about. I don't know. Or you can draw her as she usually is. Just make her extremely angry. Because she generally is, especially if Peter's involved, she is usually very angry. That's not even fine. Let's do it. Bring the brow line all the way to the nose. You bring the brow line all the way down to the bridge of the nose, to really push to the biggest frown that you can, and include the cheek lines, and make the eyes look like they're kind of like trying to escape from her head a little bit. It actually pushes the anger even further, make it like that. Let's erase all this stuff down here. Again, using a jagged edge here, showing that she has fangs, because she typically doesn't have fangs, but when she's angry, she does. And you can change the shape and the features of the face to match whatever expression that you're trying to do. There we go. Not looking happy. Or maybe she's like Ren, and she's happy when she's angry. I love being angry.
He needs a Snickers.
How do you when you're hungry?
That's my secret. I'm always hungry.
So yeah, that's generally the idea. Yes.
Is there any way other than eyelashes that you use to show that character is female?
Facial feature wise, generally I find that it's the eyes you can make smaller in shape, especially with makeup as well. Like we'll emphasize that. Like I'll show you a couple examples here. Let's go with this here. Like male eyes, I generally just make all the same shape. They're all like the whatever size, like what I've been drawing here. But a female, you can kind of push it. Like with Whitney especially, I'll draw her with more almond-shaped eyes like this, to give it a more feminine style, more feminine appearance. And also with the eyelashes, I'll sometimes make them just a solid mask instead of going with the individual lashes. That's also showing that they're wearing makeup or just inherently like their eyes take that shape. You can also give softer features, less defined, like fur around the edges. Like with Peter, I try to make his cheeks a little bit scruffier looking, whereas Whitney, I'll try to keep smoother. So it's just a difference in the appearance of the fur and other softer features like that. Also, the other thing is that I'll also show eyelids more often on female characters than I will with men. Just because the men, like if I'm showing Peter, and he's got like his eyes like squinted, I won't even show the upper eyelid most of the time. I'll just go like this, and maybe like a little line there showing that they go up, but I won't show the rest of it. Whereas with Whitney, I will show the entire curve of the eyelid.
Oh!
Sorry.
Wrong tool. I'll show the entire curve of the eyelid as well. So like if her eyes like this, I'll actually show where the eyelid goes above it.
Her eyes.
Like that. So there are different methods, aside from just the eyelashes themselves, that can portray femininity. Typically, femininity is more considered to be like curved, softer. Yes?
I've also seen and done giving a bit more emphasis on the lower lip, or
Yes.
giving a slight outline can help with a character feeling more feminine.
That is also true. Yeah, the lower lip, you can put the emphasis on it like this, or give her like the lipstick look. Even if she doesn't look like she does not look happy.
Which face on?
Yeah, that is definitely a good face.
Looks like she's making that.
How about this? I'll make her more happy like this. And like that. There you go.
Oh, sweetie.
Honey.
Push it even further. Go like this. And do one eyebrow up and one eyebrow down. She's like,
Oh, that attitude. Love that.
you stupid, beautiful man. I'm so sorry. That is definitely, there you go. So, yes. Well, her chin is big. Yeah, there you go. And Peter's over here is not even fully drawn, he's just a floating pair of eyes. So yeah, that basically sums it up. I mean, that's the gist of it. Okay.
Okay, so what do you do with characters whom you can't quite work so much with their mouth because the species really wouldn't portray to it, like a bird. A bird,
yes.
their beak
Yes.
really wouldn't
Give
move
us
that.
Give us the bird. Yes.
Give us the birds.
Okay, birds.
Birds.
Okay, so for bird characters are going to have to rely more on the other main points of the face. The mouth you're going to have sort of minimal, and I actually have one of my main characters in Peter and Company is Seth, a duck, which is in place because ducks have always played kind of like the sidekick characters in both Disney and Warner Brothers, and that's where my inspiration came from.
What about dog?
Well, there's a whole universe of duck characters in Disney stuff, but but like yeah, with the duck bill, you're not going to have too much room to maneuver with the face because this is the bill itself. Like this whole area here is not going to move for the most part. It's going to stay solid. You can still get away with some sort of elasticity, a little bit of exaggeration during like extreme emotional moments. Yeah, but it's mostly up in this area here. You're going to feel the cheeks can still be manipulated. You can still take advantage of that, the lower line of the eye. And also take advantage of the feathers along the top part of the face, or the top part of the head here. Because this can also be used to portray emotion if they're like ruffled, because a bird will flare up a little bit if they're being emotional.
Because you also don't have the ears to work with either.
Yeah, you don't have ears to work with. You don't have the ears, you don't have the mouth. You have like half a mouth to work with basically. So birds are a challenge. So if you're doing more like a parrot character, like a duck bill is going to be the full like cheek and everything is going to be the bill, but for like a parrot, let's see, a parrot character is going to be like this. And actually, I don't have a parrot character myself, but it's more like this and like a self-contained kind of thing like that.
Yes.
Like a little beak like that.
I was about to ask about small beaks.
Yeah, small beak, yeah. The small beak is mostly going to be located here, and you can use the cheeks are still available to manipulate, but this shape here generally won't change. So you're not going to have as much range of movement with the mouth.
Can you give like an example like angry or sad like the other two?
Absolutely.
Small beaks?
Absolutely. Yeah. Let me draw this character a little bit actually. Let me get a wider example of it here. So you've got the general eye. I'll put it in place here. This here, and then the beak comes on like this. So start off with just a normal face, and I'll add the other feathers in as it goes. Put a little tuft of feathers on top there. And it's generally going to be. It's a little parakeet.
Hey, what's up, guys?
So that's the general shape there. Now if you're doing angry, you're going to want to use as much of the other options as you have available. Like with other characters, you can use other elements like the ears and the mouth shape to push a different direction with the emotions, but this one's going to be more dependent on the remaining features. So you have the eyes, the eyebrows, and just whatever shape of the mouth you can get away with showing. So to show anger, you're really going to want to use as much as you can of the other ones. They become much more important and prominent. So for the mouth here, we can have it like angry like this. It's like, because this part's still here, and you can still bring it up and have it be like, no! Showing it to the side like that. Or we want the beak to still be visible, so after you've drawn in, make sure that the shape of the beak stays intact with where it's supposed to be. And you can even show it coming around like the other side, like this, coming around. So I would try to show as much of the lower mouth coming down as possible, but the beak is basically just a replacement for a nose. It's just bigger, and it takes up more room on the face. So it's kind of blocking your view of the mouth. But you should still be able to show beyond that the area that you're trying to show for the expression there. So you got like that. Or let's do like smiling. Okay, and this is actually now that we're talking about birds, this is a point of, I've actually encountered this as a point of controversy for some reason. Showing, I'll show you guys in just a second. Let me draw his eyes back up. Showing a happy bird, or I guess an angry bird, you can also show it, smiling like this, with teeth. That I have like I've encountered some very angry people who get very adamant that you can't draw this. They don't have teeth, and they don't. You're right, they don't. But it's a cartoon. Like cats can't talk either. But
So would you say that that's a legitimate reason for why, like, I mean, would you say that's a legitimate reason for why Tweety has such a big head compared to the rest of his body? Because it has such, you have to put so much, the animators have to put so much focus and attention onto his eyes and his eyebrows.
Yeah, his eyes are huge. Yeah, like his eyes take up half his head. Yeah, it's entirely possible that was a design choice intentionally because they realized they had a limitation with the beak in place. I mean, that you can't get around that. So like bird characters are always going to be a challenge for portraying emotion like that. So that's entirely possible. Tweety, Tweety's got a big head.
And Tweety's been shown to have teeth many times.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, Tweety has had teeth many times. So
Does Tweety bite Sylvester? Not thinking about that.
I don't know. I know he grins like really evilly a couple times, but
I think it's certain
situations.
Yeah. So yeah, this guy here is maybe give him like a little frills on them. He's like, oh. Okay, so that's that. And, oh, there's also one more style of character as well. I haven't shown. I've only got about 5 minutes left here, so I'm going to try to speed through this. We've got.
Do you want to do a lizard character?
I was thinking of either lizard or like canine with an extended muzzle. Yeah, like a dog. Do a dog.
And this is Doge.
Okay, so dogs. More often than not, I will actually show more teeth with a dog character because they're known to have teeth. So the mouth part of the muzzle, just in the way that I've learned to render them, the cheek line still stays directly below the eye, but the muzzle extends out like this, and the lower jaw as well extends out to make the chin underneath where the eye, or where the nose is. So now the nose itself isn't going to change a lot in the expressions, as much as a character with the nose closer to the face has more range of motion, whereas a dog or anything with an extended snout isn't going to move their nose quite as much as it is just going to move the whole position of the face. So the mouth is going to be mostly portrayed around these areas here for emotion. So now if you're showing a full grin here, again you're going to show this part here and then have the chin come forward again like this. And here I would show more teeth basically in the back. And also in the front you would have like the little canine fangs in place. Even if they're not angry, you could show the canines in there because it's just a part of what dogs are. Like they're just known for that.
Which is why we get a mass.
Exactly. And you can also show for eyebrows, instead of drawing a standard eyebrow, if the character is really scruffy, you can just do like this. Like this.
That's a dirty dog.
This is actually Eddie.
No, I'm dirty Dan.
Who is an interesting evolution of his character.
He's a vampire, Doge.
It's good for mouse.
It's a little.
Ears.
He's got the big floppy ears, yeah, the ears that kind of come forward and come down like that. But you can also put more typical like lab ears on them, or any kind of ears that you want. The more standard dog ears would be like this. that kind of thing.
It's like a whole different species now.
You're right.
Yep. Or you could draw a more streamlined dog. I'll draw this one like. You can also just have the mouth come out just this part here and not show the line along the muzzle. Just have it come out like that. So maybe go like. Let's put like a Doberman or something here. So yeah, you can entirely, you can actually just keep the openings of the mouth if it's a very like stern expression. Just keep the opening directly on the front of the muzzle and not even worry about showing this line here. Like if the character is smiling, definitely you want to have it something like that. Like now he just looks nervous. He's like, but yeah, if you want to keep the expression more simple, you can actually put the mouth entirely on the tip of the muzzle and keep the muzzle a solid mask going all the way back. And so they're only speaking through like the very end of the muzzle like that. So there's a couple of options there. And then last, let's do a lizard. A reptilian character.
The government.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God.
So the reptilian characters are going to have wider set eyes, generally speaking, and their faces are more like wide and angular. So like say like this is like let's do like a crocodile character like this, and it kind of comes forward with the nose and the nostrils are going to be more of a prominent feature on these, but otherwise it's the same basic rules as a dog, using like the snout as the positioning for like the mouth. So like I would have to look up reference for exactly what shape the crocodile's head is because I never draw crocodiles, but it's more like flat, right? So flat across the top like this. Or like a weird reptile would call it. The only lizard characters that I have in the comic actually have more of a round nose, and that is let's see here. Let's do Iggy. This is Iggy, who has just basically just a fully round nose like this, with the nose parts in front. The little mouth underneath like that.
It's like a reincarnation of your
It does.
That, and he has spots on his head.
That's right.
It's, I think it's the photo side. And yeah, he's another one of the main characters in the comic. And he's in both Peter and Company and Peter and Whitney, because he sticks around. But yeah, his construction, like he has another very large in the way structure with his nose. His nose never changes. Like manipulation, so like I'll end up having to draw his mouth usually like down at like this level if he's talking. Change the lower mouth to be the only real reference point for that. He also doesn't have very much of a chin to speak of, at least when he's a kid. Yeah? All right.
Mm-hmm. It's giving you time.
Okay. Oh, here we go. Okay, we are actually at time. So, yeah, I mean, that basically sums it up.